So this is in reference to the previous video with the information on the sun simulator. And the real question is, what is the legitimacy of this realm and the experiences here of consciousness and physicality in reference to the what is the overall or what's beyond this place, and pretty much specifically, but I can't really define the specifics because they're beyond what we experience here, but in reference to the reality of the soul and the reality of the highest, or at least the higher spiritual nature or nature of a spirit. Is this reality a projection, a dream within a dream, a deception, even an alternate dimension, an alternate artificial timeline? Those are the questions, and the truly definitive answers really can't be found here. But say somebody shows you, or you wake up one day and have the understanding, then you can at least give a message to others, even though maybe you can't tell others definitively and truly know, because you really can't truly even tell anybody anything. You can't give them your experience. You can give them ideas, and the major point is to have people question what we're told, or at least what we're experiencing, what we're perceiving. But the minor clarification is that the original sun is a transdimensional transceiver, a receiver and emitter of energy in between dimensions, from higher dimensions down to lower dimensions, converting energy so that it can be picked up like as a physical generator or an alternator to put out heat, to take in cosmic energy and to put out heat. And in the same sense, humans for a planet or a realm take in cosmic energy and convert it so that the planet can interpret it and basically communicate. Everything is a big data processor. It's all a language. Life is all about languages, and it's basically about music and harmonics, or digital information, holography, and is it holography anyway? And basically logic or reason. So one's like feeling based and one's informational, if you will. That's the whole point. But there is such thing as a sun simulator. There is something we were shown. The idea is that there's supposed to be, and somebody commented this, and this is what we talked about in the 9-hour chat with Patty Broussard, and as well what I was shown. There is sun simulator. There is like an original sun. There are electromagnetic changes taking place. The recent, well, technically recent, but or relatively, videos with the aurora borealis and the whole sky going green and white. That was supposed to be. It was described as a kind of a sign, an indicator that electromagnetic changes are taking place and will undoubtedly lead into higher changes. The whole ecosystem, we're an electromagnetically, active being, like the species. So happens if the whole sky glows like a light bulb. Okay, chances are some things are going to happen differently. But it's probably not going to be immediately, but just everything happens over time, and we've been seeing those changes with the changes in the migrating species, and the whole ecosystem is changing. But the point is that there is supposed to be a time previously that already occurred. The 3 day, everything that's prophesied to come is past, has already happened. That's the whole point, that the apocalypse already occurred, and that's the big whoop, that like now we're dealing with it, that now all these changes, these issues are coming about. But that there were 2 or 3 days of darkness. Some people say 2. Original form usually says 3. But apparently it happened, and I do remember certain weird events where time more or less was frozen, and big operations that everything went worldwide, and then they like reset everything back into a starting point. But the point is, apparently one of those was a time where the sun was basically decommissioned for a period and repaired, and from there, not sure how to describe it, whether the simulator was put into place or whether the simulator was put into place and these the spraying and things like that, basically a holographic net, is used to block out the sun because there are changes, cosmic changes basically taking place, which would it's a toss up of whether it's to stop people from becoming unstable because of these changes taking place, or because they're just trying to hide it to keep people down. It's a toss up because you gotta agree there could be people hiding things for malicious, nefarious reasons, but if everything was made apparent overnight, you'd have to agree it would wreak havoc on our society. People have to be prepared to handle these things, but it's circular logic in a way, because then it's like, well, why aren't they prepared? Because of the same people hiding it, and it's like, but you also can't use that as a reason to throw blame. No one, because we don't know how it's really, we don't know the whole picture. We don't even know what's going on. But I can assure you it's not what we think it is, and it's what we think, and what people generally think is what they're leaking so that people think that, which always means it's way deeper. So there's that, and that's kind of like a little bit of clarity. But the actual sun, or the original sun, is a transdimensional like transceiver for energy, stepping down energy from a very high level into a lower energy, more physical. And as well, the other thing is that I said this in the first release, is that the actual sun creates a portal between the surface and the sun, and it is used to access higher dimensions, but that without a proper balance of energy, it would destroy whoever basically attempted to go into it. So there's two main bodies of knowledge with this, which is that the sun, whatever you could call a cosmic attractor or cosmic center, and then the center of Earth. That there, or at least these magnetic mountains, these vortex points, these bases and areas where there are magnetic anomalies. These areas seem to have some type of ability, some type of Stargate quality that enables access to other planes, and it seems as if these planes can be merging with some type of higher civilization or area where there's either more power and safer, like more conducive for life, or some capacity for a type of like natural firewall of the type of mental parasite, spiritual parasite that seems to be present here on Earth. I'm going to present something pretty weird. Imagine Earth is a ship. It is an Earthship. It moves for eons through hyperspace, and it is used to travel and for a collective to experience different realities. Imagine in space, all you have is collectives, and collectives are basically bounded temporally and spatially bounded in the same time region, in the same space region. Collective, meaning gatherings of experiences, beliefs, actions, behaviors, etc., until you literally get people that pop out of ether space and express some type of higher being's intentions. As well, I can go on a side note there, where there are basically, it's about I don't want to really go into this, but it's about the original intention of creation, and there's basically love, and there is a kind of secondary aspect to creation, and those two aspects are kind of battling it out for souls right now. But I don't want to get too far into that. But basically, and so you basically just have space and energies, the spiritual, like the waters and all that, before there was the polarity and light and that type of physical environment to express these what are kind of termed as simulations, you just have thoughts and intentions and dreams, and then eventually so many dreams pile up and you get a intention, and so many intentions pile up, or desires or thoughts, and you get intentions, and so many intentions, and you get some type of form, and you get so many forms, and you get this type of like an ecosystem or something, and so many of those, and you eventually end up with a civilization literally appearing out of just energy, cosmic, energy from the one creative being. And this goes beyond the one who creates on the lower levels, because everything that's here seems to be basically it's like designed to die or self-destruct. It's cut off from the eternal, it's cut off from the regenerative properties of the original soul elements, it's fragmented. Everything here is built out of entropy. And so that it also brings in two creative forces, one actual and one imitator. So, that should kind of bring things into perspective, but as well, then the Earthship and the simulations, they went through hyperspace and got lost in a darkness, which led into the creation of an entropy realm, or an entropy civilization, where everything's basically at war with itself. The idea is that these simulators last indefinitely, because we're all just sitting here dreaming, trying to get along, imagine how good it could be if we all worked together. But the idea then is that it's pretty much for what you could call deep space travel, which is another way of saying deep mind, that we're all going within. And it's basically like we enter into a state of hibernation or stasis and use these Earthships to carry out our dreams in a safe way over millions of years of eons, while the Earthship navigates to higher planes. And so you could say that something happened moving through a certain area, possibly a low area or a hostile area, and these basically space parasites, which are it's mind, and it's all frequencies. So it's not like going anywhere; it's just frequencies are going through. But that's the whole point. You have infinite frequencies, or virtually infinite. So you have many, millions of years. It's like that, years of time. Okay, where did you go from 200,000 years ago to here? It was like so long. It was just so much space in between. Where was it taking? It was nothing. It was just like a frequency of angles. Well, that's just space as well. We're not going anywhere. We're just altering our perspective. But that's the idea, that we're doing that indefinitely, and that in certain frequencies with certain people of the Earthship maybe had intentions or encountered intentions that dropped the vibrations down, and eventually these parasitic entities formed into this reality, and eventually they took over. But that's the idea, and then this leads into kind of where I'm leading with this whole thing, is that basically the Matrix is two things which are kind of tossed up as the same, and this is a mind control system, and then the Maya, the actual simulation realm of physicality that soul experiences in, which it's when it's in projection, which is not the true reality. And so the two are kind of combined, and that it's not conducive to self-awareness. The Maya is a simulation that soul steps into as a kind of a distraction, but in a way an experience. Process of dreaming. The particular Maya in this universe is entropy and deception based, and it's like it's a soul eater, containment zone. That goes all into the Gnostics and the one true creator and the false imitator, the demiurge and the original Sophianic light, and basically Lucifer and Sophia. And so then the Matrix, in terms of not the Maya, but this like time grid, mind control trap simulation overlay, that's literally society. That's the laws of society and mind control and hatred against one another, temptation, all the sin, like the deadly sins, like that. Though that's the time matrix. That's the Matrix. The more you do that, the more you're tied into this, and it ultimately comes down to attachment to the Maya, which is basically routed through the Matrix mind control system, which is, regardless of the time matrix, is not real. The Maya is not real anyway. It's a dream time. And so the two basically entangle a person and get them to devote their energy into what is actually not real, but attachments. And basically it's attachments to the material realm. That's what it all comes down to. And that these the attachment to the material realm was already what would yield basically lack of self-awareness. It would yield, enough of it yields a lostness, basically a forgetfulness of one's higher nature and higher power, and it invents a storyline where we don't have access to what we once did. And that's, the birthing of the deception, the enslavement, the spiritual enslavement, the parasitism from one person to the next, and these interdimensionals that basically cause people to vampire because they're vampiring the people. And without attachment to this material world, it's not possible, and especially it's not possible without attachment to the false mind control matrix, where it's just products and consumerism and certain kinds of distractions like patriotism or celebrity worship, whatever it is. Okay, all the different flavors of distraction from the true, the true self. And but the thing is that they're like one hand in hand, but there's a differentiation, and they're not exactly the same thing, but they kind of lead into the same thing, kind of, but not necessarily, because we can still have a Maya and have one that gives reverence to the truth. It sounds illusory, like how can you be in a fake world but give reverence to the truth? It's possible, but we wouldn't live in materialism. That's the whole point. And certain things happen, like the tribes and what happened with them, where eventually they navigate out. Basically, if enough people lived how they should, the simulation would begin to resolve towards waking up, like a mass exodus, a mass awakening. And that's the point of this game, this dream, to wake up, but to do it while you're awake in the dream. It's just lucidity. It's all about, this is the same as lucid dreaming. It's the same concept. And so, you can utilize exercises designed to control emotional charge and refocus your breathing, your sense of self-control, your centeredness, to the point where you're not, like I described in the previous videos, out on either seesaw away from the center fulcrum, because then whatever hits you, it's going to hit you as if it's the densest, it's like an equilibrium, like the density is equal to your density, and it's going to knock you off balance. If you're literally in the center and it's refined all the way down beyond what's coming at you, then it passes through you in a way. And the goal is to observe what's coming at you, and whatever it is, even if it's not coming at you, just to observe, and to observe yourself, so that the reactions don't get any energy. And those reactions, those impulses that come out from the brain, the neurochemistry, that's the imposter self. That's what's trying to draw your spirit through the soul into engagement, so it can experience a type of revival. Gosh, sorry if you notice I was darker for a little bit, and the sun is apparently, way hotter than it's ever been, because I have some ethnicity, and I've burned like a couple times in my life, and I've also been kind of like stuck indoors with a bunch of injuries for a while now. But I was out in the sun for a couple days, and I ended up like burning just a little bit, and it really dried out the sensitive tissues. But that never happened before. And I also noticed how the sun's different. It's doing something different. It's way hotter. I noticed this starting like 7 years ago, and maybe a little bit before then, but it really got worse. And now the crops don't really, it's real hot, and the plants know it. And I have dry skin ripping off. Sorry. So the whole thing is about the attachment to the material, the attachment to the matrix, and that is in reference to basically an entangled version where they figured out we're in a Maya and kind of used it to enslave people, reference to the original Maya, which is just a material realm altogether, that they're both illusions. So you're the operator of your vessel, you have the control and power to navigate to higher awareness, and so, that's good enough reason to begin casting away the attachments. If there really is higher awareness and you are really in control and at the same time something beyond this, then whatever we could do here is not going to amount to, it's going to distract us. It's all it's going to equal is distracting us from what's larger. Doesn't mean we can't enjoy what's here, that's the thing, but in knowing that it's just a temporary illusion. And so it's also the attachments to the material world and also to the material self, or the false sense of self, of desires or fears. And so that image of you is not truth. The image is a representation, basically like a copy, a carbon copy, literally a carbon copy. And there is the notion that every image must be like the mirror reflection, and therefore the images alone, the self-image, is always not true because one can't get an accurate enough reflection through such a system. And so this is also like saying, even in the simple sense, instead of just like a deceptive manner, but just a transfer of information, that if you have, a telephone line, you don't get the exact voice coming through the phone. It's a form of technology, basically. And in that sense, if your body is also, because that's the basis of it as technology, but it's also a type of, it's geometry, but there's like self-referential, some type of logic there. But basically, if your body is the universe, or your body is a part of the universe, it's made of the same thing, and if you're using the body to view the universe, you can never view the whole thing because you're a part of it, and so every time you view, you're adding to it, and it's just a never-ending process. So it occurs for yourself as well. If your experience here is part of yourself, then by viewing more of yourself in an attempt to see the whole view, you're adding more that you'll have to then go back and introspect upon or review, and this happens simply by looking in the first place, so it's a never-ending process. It's a vicious cycle that is formed, whereby the more you look for yourself, the more there is to see. And so it doesn't mean that there's no point to that, it just means that what you have is never the whole thing. But that's based on what you have, what you've experienced. If you then go off of, feeling, even though you can't see that, then you can get a larger view. But that's invisible. It's not what our senses or our mind is telling us. It's invisible. It's like a sense that's not here. That's the whole idea, and that's kind of the concept behind faith. That has nothing to do with some other guy in a steeple building and some information. It has to do with what you feel when you sit and think and focus on yourself and don't use words, and you feel that pulse of presence within you. That's you, and you have to believe that that's you, because otherwise you'll be distracted. That's the whole point behind that, not some other redirection of meaning. And as well, the fear, the distraction, the lostness, the threat of disillusion and death if you don't give in to the fake, and if you're leaving it behind, that's not you. Those are like gatekeepers. Those are interdimensional gatekeepers that are set up to block people out from reaching the truth. I'm going to do another video on that soon. There's a lot of information according to that. It's basically like a data transfer system. And there's a realm of truth where there's only truth. There's no illusion. There's no, imitation. But we're from there, but not in there now, and so we have to get back there. That's pretty much how we get back there, through focus and taking perceptual bias and resolving it like an equation in just observing. From this moment to ourselves, to what we're seeing, to everything, just observing. That's how we get back there, basically. So the simulation is a method for hibernating through ultra deep space, which is hyperspace travel without going insane. And so people basically went insane. Deep space interdimensional entities breached the wall, and these are chaos beings. And so chaos is smoothed out by the simulation, yet it's introduced in a simulated manner, so it's like everything's okay. These beings couldn't hack the matrix, or they couldn't control it entirely and use it for their purposes. Thus, they basically they use chaos to control it, but that destroys the process. So it's like they're hell bent on destruction, and it goes on, and I'll make another video for that. But the system in that sense of being a type of simulator with the cosmos and all that, like, this, what we see here is part of that. That's the part of the computer system of data transfer. It's like a supercomputer that's so powerful and vast that it can spit out possibilities faster than you can comprehend them. Meaning it tricks you into trying to get it all in, but it's not going to. You're not going to understand it all, at least not mentally. And so that's the trick, basically. That it's all about perception. What's actually happening is beyond perception. And yeah, there's more to say there, especially with what's going to happen, or what you could call space, and people have to prepare themselves. Basically, they haven't really experienced anything like that yet, or like this. What's going on now? And it's no joke. It's not just like show everything. Tell us everything. 100% of people that see everything go insane. That's why we're all here. We're in a thought prison. Understand that. You see, so there's a process that was designed to make it so that people can comprehend it. But that's just what it is. The basics is that even if it's an illusory realm, the feeling is real. So we have to give appreciation for what we have, and mainly for each other, because that's what's real. The prison might not be real. The prisoners are real. And the real people, that actually can comprehend that and focus on each other. Those people are real. And so you just give appreciation and focus on that and enable that. Because the other aspect, I almost forgot, is that the matrix is based upon mind. The Maya is based upon mind. The matrix, like the time matrix system, is based on mind control. Okay, perception. The whole thing is based upon perception. So what we do to outline how we perceive ourselves in this place becomes the Maya. That's the whole point. So we can control it if we understand that and we take control of that. If we make it a big prison, that's what we believe is like saying that's what we want. And that's why this disclosure can be a redirection of people's natural power. But again, that's not the message. And bringing out what can be perceived as darkness is not to spread the darkness, it's to basically bring it into the light. And you have to understand that and apply that. And, if anybody was for knowledge, for feeling, for each other, then the truth will always do that. So that's what the whole, dynamic is, that it's about the truth. And, so yeah, as long as we can help each other, whether you believe, a sociopathic programmer demigod created this place, or whether you're giving appreciation towards the one true creator. Give appreciation and use everything to your advantage to help others do that as well. Maybe the last thing is that feeling is like water. Reality and people are the conscious canvas. Feeling not expressed for others or the self is like water poured into the desert with plants and people around that could use it. So express the truth of feeling that is within you, and cleave between the perceptual bias that wants you to carry out a storyline that is not what you actually have to do in order to get that feeling out and get that truth out. You can look at it and say, well, throw that away. And does that still carry on what's left? Does that still mean what you feel inside? And the truth, not the stuff that's being put in and you tell yourself to feel, but the truth that's there. If that still does, then guess what? The other stuff is programming. It's perceptual bias. Whether you did it or not, it's inherent to this realm. It's the illusion, the imposter, the imitator. And basically it's like when we mimic others. And it's when we basically describe who we are based upon what's happening here sensually in this physical, like perceptual system. When we use that to describe ourselves, we're not describing ourselves, we're describing something else. So express what you are feeling honestly, in a truthful manner, and let go of perceptual bias when you do this, and that's basically moving. When you do that for those like layers of self-referential iterations of expansion, like I was trying to describe, which I have a couple better ways of describing it, which is basically that there's just a limited 9 or so sets of iterations, and once you do that, it's the maximum amount of information in the universe, and any more, you're repeating information. Somewhere along there, you're repeating. But once you do this expression of the truth and all that, you begin to bring a true presence of whoever you are beyond this place into here. And that seems to be the point, because when the two combine, it's like a liberation from this place, and that's what this whole disclosure is all about. And there are a lot of distractions, so we just gotta do what we can. Keep talking, keep thinking, keep asking questions, and basically always express what you're feeling, but do it truthfully. And if you're imbalanced, if there's emotional charge in the sense of you're emotionally motivated through hate or even jealousy or pleasure and passion over the physical sense or some image, okay, ego, it's not really you. So don't give in to that. It's basically, we're all about truth. What we actually are is based upon reasoning and truth, and all the fuzzy stuff that seems to guide us in one way or another and causes these reactions, it's the illusion. It's the Maya, which is being used and siphoned and parasitically attached by the time matrix mind control grid, which literally is so complex they created interdimensional parallels that it's like a big invisible prison that fits into the mind and makes the mind spray out false reality, which is crazy because you keep climbing and climbing and climbing and going through the maze. The switch is actually in here, and the key is in here and in here, and you turn those, the maze disappears. That's pretty much what it is. Alright, thank you.